Change is never easy, but striving to become more than what you were yesterday, to make that impact, that is George Mason, and that will never change. A university that slays giants, a university made stronger by saying yes, a university old enough to know better but young enough not to care. So expect change, remembering that we're at our strongest when we're all together different.
Welcome to Mason Live. A happy Monday to you all. My name is Pat Money. I'm the Director of Admissions for Freshman Recruitment.
And I'm Eva Brumesco, Associate Director of Undergraduate Admissions.
We're excited to be with you all today. There's going to be a lot of our greatest hits around Mason's campus.
We've assembled a real, cast of characters from around the university to share some of the most exciting and best things from around George Mason.
Yeah, the first thing we did was ask them what some of the words they thought would best describe Mason. So let's check that out.
3 words I would say describe Mason are innovative, spirited, and home.
Diversity, growth, and family.
Excellence, diverse, and togetherness.
Inclusive, dynamic, and bold.
Innovative, collaborative, and novel.
Diverse, supportive, and motivating.
Diverse, inclusive, and transformative.
Well, those were some good choices for 3 words, I have to say, but it can be kind of a daunting task. What would your contributions be?
Yeah, it's harder than it seems to come up with 3 words to capture the university. Mine, I think they're pretty good, are ambitious, trailblazing, and collaborative.
Interesting. I think I would have to go with exciting, community, and something I've heard around campus is different.
We are altogether different.
We are. A little bit ago, you got to talk with one of our more involved sophomores here on campus. So let's take a look and see how that conversation went.
Lucy, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to decide to come to school more than just a few hours away from home?
Yeah, of course. So I'm from upstate New York, Rochester, New York. It's 7 hours away, so not an easy car ride, but I love being down here. I just kind of wanted to get out of that New York boundary of space and come down to the DC area. I'm a government major, so I really wanted to work in Washington, DC, and I toured Mason, and I knew this was the one for me.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about that sort of process of finding home here and what it was like kind of early on in your freshman year?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a sophomore now, so I've had a little bit of dipping my toes in the water here, but coming right into Mason, I actually auditioned for the dance team. So I did have that little sense of community coming in on the Masonettes, but being here, being at the club fair, seeing what's around Mason, I really was like, wow, there's so much to do and I could put myself in so many things. So I also joined the Mason Ambassadors. So I give tours around campus. We do a lot of admissions events, but I'm also in a sorority. So Zeta Tau Alpha, I went through the rushing process for that and I found my community there. So
absolutely. So it sounds like getting involved was kind of your secret to finding your place.
Yeah, college for me is a lot more than just academics. I am here to study, but I'm also here to find who I am, find my place. So really getting the full college experience is about doing your schoolwork, but also finding your places around campus through those extracurriculars.
Thank you so much for stopping by and sharing a little bit of your Mason perspective with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can feel the school spirit radiating off of her. She is Miss Mason.
Yeah, seems to be super involved. She said that there seems to be always something going on campus, and as an alum, one of my favorite things is homecoming. Yeah. We have a video to check out what that looks like. Based on that video, there's clearly a lot of Patriot pride on this campus. And speaking of Patriots, I'm here with one right now, but I'm supposed to be interviewing the Director of Player Development for the men's basketball team, Lamar Butlers, and I'm pretty sure you're in his seat. All right, so Coach, thanks so much for being here today. Really appreciate you taking some time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I want to ask you, you were a Mason student before your role as an assistant coach on the men's basketball team. As you're looking back to your experience as a student to now, what made you want to come back to Mason?
This is home for me. This is where I went from a young teenager to a young man, and it helped shape me to who I am as a person and coach I am today. So have the opportunity to come back was a no-brainer.
Well, you got to see this campus from a lot of different perspectives, but from when you were here back in '06 to now, what do you think the best improvement on campus is? What stands out?
The buildings, the new buildings. I remember when I came back from the first couple years overseas and I drove through campus, it's like, this is George Mason. Just to see the constant development, redevelopment of campus and new buildings and new facilities.
When you look at now that you're back, you're established, you've been here for now a couple years again, why is it a great time to be a Patriot?
Just think the forward movement of Mason. Like I said, the vision that George Mason has as a university and where we're headed, I definitely want to be a part of that Mason train and just to see what we will be and be a part of it. And Mason is a pillar in this community. You know, people didn't know about George Mason when I came here in 2005, 2006, when we graduated. Now everybody, it's like, oh, George Mason, I don't want to say we put him on a map, but the school has a strong reputation in this area, not just obviously athletics, but academically as well.
Coach, thanks so much for hanging out today. I really appreciate it. Good luck this season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Our student athletes really are some of our hardest working, most impressive students. And you had the opportunity earlier to talk to the captain of our women's soccer team. So why don't we take a look at that conversation?
All right, so thanks so much for giving us some of your time today. I know it's a busy schedule as the fall semester is getting underway. I know that you transferred to Mason initially. Can you talk a little bit about what that thought process was like? What opportunities were you looking for? What brought you to Mason?
So I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so kind of a ways away. I was at a previous institution in Maryland, so it wasn't too far. I love the DMV, and that was something that I really wanted to stay in the area. I loved the location, so when I was looking and decided to enter the transfer portal, it was a tough decision, but I think that the people here really made it easy, from the staff, the professors, my coaches. It was something that I really felt that family sense and that environment that I wanted to put myself in. And then the diversity was a big thing for me too. Coming from Florida, there's a lot of different backgrounds that I've grown up around. My best friend group is very different, and I love that. And I saw that here at Mason, and that really attracted me here as well. And just being able to see people that look like me and don't look like me, and we just still bond really well. And that was something that really drew me here.
Now that you're here, you're captain on the women's soccer team. So that's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. But you also have some international soccer experience. So what's that headspace like you're a young college student, you get the opportunity to participate in the World Cup, one of the biggest stages in all of the world in terms of sports, and you're still worried about being a college student. What's that headspace like?
I try not to drive myself too crazy. I think when you say it like that, it's like, wow, like that did happen. But I try not to put myself under too much pressure because I am just having fun. Like, I'm enjoying myself. I'm still a college student, but I'm still able to travel the world and get that experience.
So you have all these things on your plate. You started here as a transfer, now a graduate student. The World Cup's in there. But I heard you had an internship along the way. Tell me more about that internship. How did it come about? How'd it go?
So I had a class. It was ethics. It was sport ethics, and it was with Professor Tess Weiss. And when I walked in the first day, she said that she worked in community relations with DC United, and it just clicked right away. I was like, okay, I have to say something after class because I'm a big sports fan. I love EPL, but MLS is another thing I love. I just love the game. And I knew I had to get an internship before I graduated. So after class, I was just like, if there's any opportunities, can you please let me know? And it just went from there. So as I went through classes and towards the end of the spring, there was a time where we were just like talking and going over my resume. And then the next year for my final requirement, I asked her, if there's any way. And then we had this whole career social event in the JC. And I went up to one of the supervisors who also graduated from George Mason, and he became my supervisor for the internship, and it just went from there, and we were able to get that internship in, and an experience of a lifetime.
I love how that all kind of came together.
Yeah.
That's a good story of how networking, just by happenstance, you say the right thing to the right person at the right time,
Yes.
and the thing you wanted the most fell into your lap. Good luck this season. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Of course.
And we'll see you around campus.
Thank you.
No problem. So after talking to Milan, I have to say, every time I get to talk to a student like that, it blows my mind how one conversation with one professor, just by happenstance, leads to an incredible journey of opportunity. It's just a great example of what Mason has to offer. And I know you had a chance to talk to Dr. Kim Eby about how faculty can influence the student experience here at Mason. So let's take a look at how that conversation went.
Dr. Eby, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to spend some time with you. Could you start by telling us a little bit about how you would describe a Mason student?
Yeah, I mean, Mason students, they constantly amaze and impress me. They're driven to succeed. They're super hardworking. One of the things I think really distinguishes a Mason student is that they don't take their education for granted, right? They're here because they really want to get that sort of, prize, and they want to get the degree and move up in the world.
You work a lot with our faculty that
I
we have
do.
here at the university, who are some of the most outstanding individuals. What do you think makes George Mason University faculty special?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that make our faculty special. I mean, one is that our faculty genuinely care about the success and the well-being of our students. We have faculty who are deeply committed to their teaching and their mentoring practices. Many of them have won teaching awards or mentoring awards here at George Mason and also in their professional disciplines. We have the privilege of having some of the best scholars and researchers and creative artists really in the country and sometimes internationally who are here. Many of them love to work with our students, including our undergraduate students, and bringing them into their research and creative teams. And being in the Washington metropolitan DC area, we have access to a group of adjunct faculty who have had such amazing careers or still do in industry, in government, and in the nonprofit sector. So we really have just the best of all worlds.
Thank you so much for stopping by to spend a little time with us. We so appreciate it. And thanks for, reminding us a little bit about what's best about the university.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
I love Dr. Eby. She's absolutely one of my favorite people on this campus. And I loved what she had to say about, what makes a Mason student. We have a video of our president sort of reflecting on the same thing. Why don't we take a look at that?
Do you know what else we've always had and what our students are? They are full of what we call grit. Grit has served us well. Students, I know you know what I'm talking about. Grit got you here. Grit is what is getting you through. A fourth of you are the first in your family to go to college. You might be fresh out of high school. You might be fresh out of the military. There is a place for you here. You might still be working. You might actually be raising your own family. There is a place for you here. You might be a lifelong learner. There is a place for you here. You might be anybody. There is a place for you here. And we wouldn't have it any other way.
I love what the president had to say there. And, speaking of grit, we have a few students lined up, and they're going to talk to us about what their experience on campus is like and how they're going through it. And one of the first ones we have up is Justin. He's a sophomore student here at Mason in our honors college, and he talks about how research is impacting his experience thus far. All right, well, Justin, thanks for being here today. I appreciate you taking some time out of a busy schedule, I'm sure.
Pleasure to be here.
I heard as an honor student, you got to experience a research opportunity in your very first semester on campus. Can you tell me what that was like? How did it go?
Sure thing. So I started on my research experience my freshman year, specifically with my Honors 110 class I had the privilege of taking through the Honors College here at Mason. That program kind of introduced me to the basics of research, and then from there I was able to contact with one of my physics professors and find a research opening that he had available in his lab. So then from there I've been working with him, doing different physics research tasks and just overall shaping my physics research experience.
So I heard that after a busy first semester, you decided to stay busy this summer and you pursued an additional research opportunity. Tell me a little bit more about that. How'd it go?
Absolutely. So over the summer, I had the privilege of interning with the U.S. Naval Research Lab, and through them, I've been able to look into event-based cameras as well as data processing that goes along beside those. So I've been really interested in the data processing side of those and working on getting that data presented to the end user in a very organized fashion.
So if you had the chance to give prospective students that are considering Mason a little advice, what would you tell them?
So I would say if you're applying to Mason, it's definitely good to have like some broad strokes of what you want to do, but you don't have to have the entire plan figured out. When I started out here, I knew generally where I wanted to start, but it took me a little while to figure out more specifically what I wanted to like really focus my time and energy on. And the research experience that I've gained here has really helped shape my understanding of what I want to focus on and study more as I progress throughout my academic journey.
Justin, thanks so much for spending some time with us. I really appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of the semester.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So I loved what Justin said there about not having to have everything figured out right when you get here or when you're applying even, and allowing yourself to let the experience kind of take you on that journey.
Absolutely. And, I had a conversation with another sophomore, Sarah, who also was able to just kind of start taking those first steps, even as a brand new freshman, and it really led her to some pretty exciting places that she's going to share with us a little bit about. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Sarah, you had a busy summer this year. Tell us a little bit about what you were up to.
So since I'm a computer science student, I got the opportunity to work at Google for 12 weeks. I was flown out to the Bay Area and I helped Google Play. I worked on revamping this old validation system they had, and I got to also add on to it as well. And then on top of that, I also got to help modify the code base a little bit. I got to get rid of some old code, and also I think I created some new tests for someone else's project, I believe, as well.
Very cool. So if we're using Google Play, we might be using some of your code.
Maybe.
So, that's a competitive gig. A lot of students would love to do that. How did you land that?
So I came into college, I did not have a resume just because I had just graduated high school, and I realized that we have a career services here. So I set up a meeting with specifically the engineering advisor for career services, and she helped guide me to make a resume. She gave me a whole document, a bunch of different resumes, and pointed out, this is the one you need to use. I put all my information down, and then when I got to projects, luckily my classes back-to-back projects, so I got a lot of hands-on learning, and I ended up having 4 projects put on my resume at that time, just in my first semester. So I put all 4 of them down, I applied, I got an interview maybe 2 months later, and then there I was at Google Suddenly in the summer.
That's fantastic. And I think it's, really important to remember that even in your first semester, you have learned things that go on a resume from class that are useful in that way, and that there are internships out there for first-year students the summer after your very first year. That's, never too early to kind of go chasing these things. Yeah. Isn't she amazing?
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, Sarah is outstanding, but she's not alone in this type of experience. Mason is now #1 in Virginia for internships, and you can't be #1 unless you start early. We're getting our freshmen into experiences like this right after their first year.
Yeah, and you can't get these rankings unless it's all students and all majors across the board. We have a video that's going to talk a little bit more about our rankings, and then we're going to hear from our Dean of Admissions.
Dean Bird, thank you so much for joining us today. And we are pretty much right upon our early action deadline. But what is a piece of advice that you have for our prospective students and applicants right now?
The best advice I can give for this time of year is to really just get organized, to plan out how you plan to apply, which schools you're going to apply to. For George Mason specifically, I definitely encourage students to apply by November 1st, which is our early action deadline. That'll put students in the best possible position for consideration for not only admission, but for scholarships and also the Honors College. For students who cannot meet that deadline, we definitely want them to apply by February 1st, which is our regular decision deadline. And also to just really be themselves in the application, make sure that they provide us with as much information as possible because we want to know their personal story as we review their applications.
And what type of student do you think succeeds here at George Mason?
Okay. I wouldn't say a particular type of student would succeed at George Mason because we're an extremely diverse community and all of our students graduate at very similar rates. It just really depends on that individual and what they're seeking in their college experience. George Mason has so much to choose from, over 400 student organizations, so much to get involved in. It's really about finding your place on campus and making the best of your college experience. Our students who are typically most involved typically will have the best experience and they create memorable opportunities on campus for themselves that they'll remember for the rest of their lives.
You know, we did just see a video that talks a little bit about some of our new points of pride, some exciting rankings that we've achieved in the last year. What would you say that you are most proud of in the last year?
We have a lot to be proud of in this last year. First and foremost, we enrolled our largest incoming class in school history for the 4th consecutive year. That makes 9 out of the last 10 years that we broke a new enrollment record for incoming students. That's an amazing accomplishment, and it really shows that George Mason University is no longer the best kept secret in higher education. We have a lot of great opportunities for students on our campus, so I hope that everyone checks us out.
Absolutely. We are something for everybody. Right?
Well, you heard it from the dean. We have deadlines right around the corner. November 1st being our early action deadline. Don't forget that that's priority consideration for merit scholarship and our honors college. And then we have the February 1st deadline for regular decision. But if you're watching this video, you have November 1st, and those decisions will come out in mid-December, which gives you plenty of time to come visit us, come to another campus event, shadow a current student, go to a class, talk with us, do your research, become a future Patriot on your own terms. But don't forget, we're here to help, and we're excited to help you along the rest of this event.
That's right. In just a moment, a next stop button is going to appear on your screen, and that's how you'll navigate yourself to our breakout rooms where all of our academic units and the admissions office folks are ready to talk to you and answer your questions. So we look forward to seeing you in the next space.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us.